Kotoka was supposed to be nanko say Trinity. Nanko say Nijina circle near Trinity. And then Kwasi Afobiti TV so Ebeka just said Nkrumah was a traitor. He was a tyrant. He was a dictator. That's when we were growing up. Near you say JJ Nkwana Yeku Ghana. Near you say AFRC, PNDC for Nkwana any papa. And so before that, all the coup that happened, coup a two Kwame Nkrumah no a benefiti Buzia. Buzia no ni JB dan Nkwana ye Juma bom. Buzia no ni JB dan Nkwana nam. NLM yet no mensia NLM. And sana sa nkwasiafo we de neba. So you people should not sit there. Now we can kwasiasem and we allow you. And it's me say democracy sometimes is not good for black man. Democracy, it is not good for black man. Because any democracy power and Kofi Benton they wouldn't even have the space to talk like this on radio. Ekrobia, and now you are speaking ill about Nkrumah like this. Abra, you are not the only person who basically lived through Nkrumah's regime. Anka ye chawutia to actually. Yatiana Bavo Koto yi 700 pounds. Aka 7 minutes no me wi at assemble dey room. Ya di ni ehwam say we didn't want to say anything because you see sometimes nyoma bi ntina na me din because I person hu say munim nyansa na say mo gimi. Edu mu ahen. Ta kwa champagne na owu ye na one na cause problem we nyina. Ade bia o tro say nkran kan bia o school bia it was a jandam. It was an agenda against the NDC, PNDC. It was an agenda against JJ Rawlings. Coup where Kotoka and who was the beneficiary of this coup? Wasn't it Buzia? Now Buzia way. What is Ghana and Kwasi Asem? Now, team, look, Mama Chemu coup na in Kwasi Afo yen. This is the coup. Watch it. Mama Kwasi Afo the radios Paul Adamotre. Kwasi Ampenya went to Mancho Baso or Bajano. Jimmy when I'm a This is the coup. Watch this.
By 1964, mutters of discontent within the military and police had coalesced into a secret plot against Nkrumah's government. One of the early conspirators was John Willie Kofi Harley, the Inspector General of Police, who confided his intentions to Kotoka that year. Kotoka agreed to cooperate with Harley, sharing the belief that Nkrumah's increasingly autocratic rule and economic mismanagement were steering Ghana in the wrong direction. However, attempts to stage a coup in early 1965 did not materialize. The conspirators struggled to win over Major General Stephen Otu, the Chief of Defense Staff, who remained loyal to Nkrumah. Likewise, other senior officers were wary of treason, so Kotoka and his compatriots realized they might have to rely on more junior officers to carry out any takeover. In July 1965, Kotoka was transferred out of Accra, possibly by Nkrumah's design, to become commander of the Army's 2nd Infantry Brigade, based in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. This move, however, proved fateful in an unexpected way. In Kumasi, Kotoka became close friends with Major Akwasi Afrifa, a bright young officer serving as his brigade major. Afrifa harbored his own grievances against the regime and soon joined Kotoka's growing conspiracy. Together with Harley and a handful of others, they started crafting a plan to topple Nkrumah. By late 1965, they decided to act at the earliest opportune moment. President Nkrumah's foreign policy inadvertently handed the plotters a cover for their clandestine preparations. In late 1965, Nkrumah announced that Ghana would contribute troops to an African force to fight against the white minority government in Rhodesia, today's Zimbabwe. He ordered the military into a state of readiness. Kotoka astutely used this mobilization as a pretext to reposition troops and conduct exercises near Accra, thereby moving forces into place under the guise of training for Rhodesia. All the while, Nkrumah's security apparatus remained unaware that these maneuvers were part of a coup plan. Timing was critical. The conspirators agreed they would act when Nkrumah was outside the country, to minimize resistance and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. In February 1966, an opportunity arose. Nkrumah departed on a high-profile trip to Asia, with stops in Beijing and Hanoi on a peace mission related to the Vietnam War. The plotters set the coup for dawn on February 24, 1966, just days after Nkrumah's departure. Kotoka also understood that success hinged on neutralizing the military commanders in Accra, who were not yet in the know. He managed to secretly convince Colonel A.K. Akron, the commanding officer of the 1st Brigade in Accra, to join the conspiracy at the 11th hour. Furthermore, they roped in a respected retired army officer, Major General Joseph Arthur Ankra, as a figurehead to lead the new government once Nkrumah was ousted. Ankra, who had been involuntarily retired by Nkrumah months earlier, was seen as a popular and stabilizing choice to front the regime, since Kotoka and Harley preferred to wield power from behind the scenes rather than serve as head of state. At approximately 6 a.m. on 24th February 1966, Kotoka and his co-conspirators struck, executing what they had codenamed Operation Cold Chop. Major Afrifa led a contingent of soldiers to seize key installations in the capital, including the broadcasting house of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Once the radio station was secured, Kotoka made a dawn broadcast to the nation announcing that the military and police had taken over the government in order to save the country from economic chaos and one-party tyranny. This radio address was the first that most Ghanaians heard of the coup, and it signaled that the long-feared and long-rumored takeover was a reality.
This is the story. Kotoka na mo kana asem we. A dirty man. Jenabro ni kachechire mu nyina ne say Kwame Nkrumah at a point ohun say or say or reshuffle eye military high command for no around the nation. Mistake Nkrumah ya ne say move Kotoka kwa Asantememu. Kotoka kwa Siampen o ya hunani. Okodo Asantememu no ena okohia another military officer ye friend e free fa kwa Siampen bi. Asantini okohia no ena almost psyche na adwene say oman ne say remember these were the same group of people a free fa no na ne nananom ena call queen ho ka kire queen say na omo asantefo no pese omo teme ho queen ka say I cannot severe ontumi ntwa man nim entem ho enti saa free fa kwase ampanyi no na ne nananom ka saa group no ho na omo pese the Queen of England ete Ghana free asante free Ghana ho ena queen say magimi na mo nko amodi mo ho so amodwen say mo betuma survive menye enti time Kotoka ko asantememu no ye posted the call ho no ena ko those people who had harbored those kind of bitterness omo nananom ne bi wo military nim and I'm starting a political to say you can be part of us. That is where the indoctrination started. They started creating that in the head of Kotoka because on one no agunenia we Jimmy. Na adwini nye adwuma. Ordin ntuma ko bo ntuma no. So what they did was edumre bi na Nkrumah kase ewiase no opesen koboa na Ghana dia ewiase koso no yes soja for no bi dey yetumi mo better training etu kwan ko abrochi peacekeeping ade into or started sa project no. And what happened? That is when they got the opportunity to start recruiting the likes of them that Kotokani Afrifa sa ankwasiafo no sa people with their old animal mentality sa ankwasiafo no. They started recruiting people from the army. And now the bedroom kind almost started a pick young, ignorant, and and they took their time. They planned the coup in 1965. Kwame Nkrumah, every Ghana so Oko Asia. ABA. That was when they decided to take over the country. But some say, what was the reason for the coup? Almost na Ghana thing. The way Nkrumah was ruling, it was obvious to me for any clear-cut evidence. And by say Nkrumah was a dictator. Nkrumah was trying to re-strategize the country. There were people in the country who were trying everything possible to assassinate Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah ko Burkina Faso ko Srim. Now ne baumia papa enenam. This same Buzi and Nkofo, they wanted to assassinate him. So you expect the president to be sitting there like a fool and not tightening things up. How many assassination attempts na Sankwasi Afowe try or Kwame Nkrumah life so many. So you expect Kwame Nkrumah to be sitting there like a Roman father and be hugging everybody. He was supposed to make sure things were tightened up security wise. So when Nkrumah decided to make things tight and make sure the people living in the country felt safe, these foolish people did not understand. They wanted their way. And Nkrumah took Asia. In 1965, no planning 66. omutu aban ni guye. In the name say Ghana yedin nyoma nkoye nanka Ghana na Nkrumah dictator anka wo kwam Kotoka ne saa kwasi ampenye free fana na omudi eye saa so yanka mu nyanke nguma anto antwene. Huh? And what they did was that they had to overthrow Nkrumah's government. All in the name say yempa Nkrumah ye waka queen say also the part of the country ne maye and one tia say yema Ghana we are not going to make it governable. The intention was ye be say kro no Buzie Tukwain akotena Togo. He was sitting in Togo, writing articles upon articles, selling it out into the world and making it look like Kwame Nkrumah was a tyrant. All because say nya mo bi nya ebeko go di nkanko corner. The mentality. JB Dankwa, his partner, was also working for the Americans. Kwame Nkrumah nipa bako trying to save a nation and trying to help the world. This is the real story. So Abuawe onye nipa bia e was say di to bibia so. What happened then? Mr. P, Tim, I saw you just sent me something. Kotoka be coup. Now, the question is, Kotoka ye coup, no? Who did it benefit? The people it benefited, who are they? It benefited Buzia. It benefited JB Dankwa. Who were those two people? These were the people who were always hunting Kwame Nkrumah to kill him. So, who was the mastermind behind the coup? It was this NPP people. So Nkrumah was a dictator. You cannot prove with anything. But you see, they want to create an impression. They want people to think, say, Nkrumah bonibi. So when you read our history books, you started reading culture studies, social studies, Papa na your friend Edubuahin, Professor Edubuahin na opeso obedi MPP nim ebe contested JJ Rawlings in 1992. Edubuahin, on na MP before first flag bearer. On a person contested presidential candidate. On a person or contested JJ Rawlings because the hatred. One of the most tribal bigots in Ghana was Edubuahin. Those guys were the guys who wrote our books. So what they did is book no create impressions that JJ Bonsam. So all the coups that happened in 66, before 66, and all the way, they did not talk about it. They briefly mentioned it in our culture studies books. And then they went all the way down to 1979. And then they started detailing it. And making you, the young person in the classroom, a Ghana history, JJ Rawlings looked at like a monster to you. So they made it more horrific. They made it more graphic. Into utie story teacher ni kanya in your head na jeje kutatuo and we radam no bo we mutimutuo no bo we timutuo no twa weti. They created it in the minds of the people. They printed it here. Into we were like into jeje cool and oku nipa. But the reality is that they had an agenda. They wanted to paint Rawlings and the PNDC and AFRC. They wanted to paint them in a certain way because that is where the problem started. Kotoka in 1967, a young military officer shot this guy and killed him. When you say Kotoka 1967, he was shot. He was shot by a young officer. Now Kotoka a hero, and at the in a year. Why would a young officer in less than a year shoot to kill him? Because he's a monster. The young people realize that this guy has destroyed the Ghana. Yes, she say. This is what the story is. Besides, Mr. P, do you have something for me? I can show you, team. So let's not sit down and entertain this foolish talk. So Kwame Nkrumah was this, Kwame Nkrumah was that, Kwame Nkrumah was this. The beginning of the destruction of Nkrumah's legacy and JJ Rawlings it was from 1992. Time I Edubuahin more chance to write our social studies and culture studies books. That was the beginning of our end. In the book, so we study our books now, and one of these days I know one of the teachers will mail one of those books to me. Me pay Class 6 culture studies books, any social studies book. Me pass those P6 and P5 books unim de wom. P5 and P6 social studies books, any culture studies books unim de wom. Everything in our culture studies textbooks was about accounts. Hardly did they mention Muslims. Hardly did they mention Northerners. The only thing that you could see about Northerners, the 5 pillars of Islam, Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, is done. When you go into our books, it's all about the whole thing was geared towards making the Ashantis look better than any tribe in Ghana. With all due respect, I don't hate Ashantis. But you see, sometimes let's face the reality. Some people try to twist the history of this country. At a point, people from different tribes did not even believe in their own tribe because books have shaping the minds of the young people in the wrong way to the point where they did not even believe in their own tribes. Into not our school, not your friend Dikwa no ferry, because they have been created. You created BBA to system. We say, I don't know when you didn't say, I don't know if sa, I don't know if dovedu, I don't know if domeluvo, I don't know if they created it. You bought a pepe needing, and I said 10 needing or class no BS because of the way they shaped our minds were shaped, where they crafted our minds. When you see a Jimmy, who is this idiot? Who are these fools? We are delving into this matter. And we are speaking our mind on issues. But for some reason, Yenina decided to say, let us build this nation. Nana do dankwe kufuado neba umiaba power, and this thing came back again. Some people wanted to look better than other people. Some people wanted to underestimate some tribes. Ekufuado to me who I was sorry. But why should it be like that? Why should we lower the country to that point? Me say I know I'll get teachers now more Ghana. No, I need class 6. Class 5, class 6, JSS 1, culture studies and social studies. You'll be shocked. Obaka say edubu ahin. Edisa could be a boss up a panidi and in the group no choice and kwasia book no. Me see at a point, Pepe ni akwara 10 ni akwara jina school near Bonidin, yeah, market register, not ferry. I went to international school throughout my life. Me man ko saito da. And I always made sure say me na fufu nyina ko saito, so I'm able to understand. Me na fufu nyina ko saito. I was just privileged to be in international school throughout my life. Into me, I had both of two that experience. I had it. Into me, I've never underestimated human beings. And see, I didn't need shower. I was so tears. So do point to me. I was so tears here. Cause someone I'm going to Ghana. Who is this guy? Huh? Who is Kotoka? Let me show you another thing. Thank you very much, team. I'm going to show one last one. Now, Faye, Bimfa, show no and womb. Mommy, I charge you and some of catch them Ghana. So let us not allow these polydemocracies and those foolish people. These are ingrates. They have nothing to do with their lives. They are tribal bigots. Let's not entertain them. Let's not entertain these people. Team, do you want me to show this before we go on? Maybe team, no more time. They have all the time on this planet. So video they can pull it for me. Team, did you send me the next one? Almost send me for and this is about what, team? They said this next video is where Kotoka was shot. Is where Terminal 3 is now. Baby Kotoka, a young military officer shot Kotoka, killed him. And let me show you the video where he was shot. Because I'm paying you when I'm in the Kotoka Airport. So, team, thank you very much. I can bring that in now. Akwana Airport, why you board to? I didn't know the airport. So,
the motivations behind the coup were a blend of political and personal ambitions. It is true that many within the rank-and-file Army and Air Force had been uneasy with the coup against Nkrumah and yearned to avenge his overthrow. However, Lieutenant Arthur's own statements suggest a more ego-driven motive. According to later testimony, Arthur bragged that he wanted to be the first lieutenant to have staged a successful military coup in Africa. Planning for Operation Guitar Boy took place in utmost secrecy over weeks, if not months. The conspirators knew they lacked the open support of high-ranking officers, so they concocted a bold deception. They led the soldiers under their command to believe that a broad, countrywide military uprising was underway, involving many units, not just their own. On the night of Sunday, April 16, 1967, under the pretext of a special training exercise near Ghana's border with Togo, Arthur secretly assembled over 100 soldiers from the Ho-based Recce Squadron. These men were made to understand that come morning, all the Ghana Armed Forces would rise to oust the NLC, and that their unit was simply spearheading a well-coordinated military-wide coup. By dawn, Arthur laid a ruthless blueprint for the regime change and called for the elimination of the entire NLC leadership and all senior officers of the armed forces. He then split his rebel force into 4 assault teams, each assigned to capture a vital location in Accra. One squad was tasked with seizing Ghana's international airport. Another was to take control of the Flagstaff House, the military headquarters. A third team targeted the Ghana Broadcasting House, and the fourth was directed at Christiansborg Castle, the seat of the government. Leading by example, Lieutenant Arthur personally led the detachment that stormed the national radio station. In the early confusion of that morning, Arthur's men overcame the small security detail at the broadcaster. Eager to declare victory, the lieutenant rushed to the microphone and announced over the radio that the NLC government had been successfully overthrown. This premature proclamation proved to be a critical mistake, as it alerted loyalist forces and the public that a coup was underway, while the outcome was still far from decided. Arthur's broadcast claimed that a revolutionary new regime was in control, but even as he spoke, fierce skirmishes were raging at the other target sites. At Christiansborg Castle, 2nd Lieutenant Osei Poku led a raiding party in an attempt to capture General Ankra and other council members. The attackers infiltrated the castle grounds amid sporadic gunfire. However, Ankra narrowly escaped their clutches by slipping out, reportedly climbing over a wall or through a side exit, and went into hiding as loyal troops converged to defend the castle. The rebels thus failed to nab the head of state, depriving them of a major bargaining chip. Meanwhile, some of the heaviest action unfolded around Flagstaff House and the nearby military installations, where General Kotoka was located that morning. There, Lieutenant Yabowa's squad attacked and broke through the defenses of the Army headquarters, with the intention of eliminating Kotoka and any senior officers present. A firefight erupted in the compound and nearby areas. Amid the chaos, Kotoka's personal bodyguard, Staff Sergeant Emmanuel Ose-Grunshi, fought desperately to protect his commander. But he was fatally shot in the scuffle, as were a few loyal soldiers trying to repel the attackers. General Kotoka found himself cornered. Accounts suggest that he tried to flee towards the airfield, which is adjacent to the military headquarters, once it became clear that his position was overrun. In the end, Kotoka was captured by Yabowa's men near Accra Airport. In an act of brutality, Yabowa personally murdered the unarmed Kotoka, later confessing at his court-martial that he first stabbed the general with a bayonet and then shot him repeatedly. By the time Kotoka's body was recovered, he had 10 bullet wounds and multiple stab injuries, a clear sign of overkill, driven by either rage or a desire to ensure the feared general was truly dead.
This is the story. Obi a coup in less than a year. His own young officers stand against him. Ask yourself why. Busa why? I didn't tell JJ Ronalds or coup. His own people didn't turn against him to kill him. Ask yourself why. Because the motive behind that coup was wrong. The people he used to overthrow Nkrumah later found out that he was being used. Kotoka himself tried to correct things. They said no. Because you see, there were some people in there who were still those people, their people. They still didn't want Nkrumah back. You know the story.